Hello chess friends, this is International Master Valery Wolf, and today we're going to be talking about pawn endgames. Yes, the most important of all kinds of endgames, the pawn endgames, and how to handle them, what to think about them, and how to master them. So first of all, we're going to talk about the Zugzwang. Zugzwang is probably one of the most important themes in pawn endgames, and what it's about is it's actually the expression, a German word for obliged to move, even though it's not going to be in someone's interest to do so. So what we see here is a pretty amazing position in which basically the material is equal, yet black has to lose. And the sole reason for this is because there is basically no way on how he can keep the white king out. So if black's king moves to c6, white's likely going to do king e5 and then win the pawn. If the black king goes down to e6, white's king is going to go to c5 and take this pawn. So what we basically get to understand is that wherever the black king goes, white will just step up. He'll move ahead and practically win one of black's pawns. So that is the sole definition of a Zugzwang position. You see, no matter where a certain player goes, he has to lose, as there is basically no way on how he can escape. So this is what I'd like to point out. Now let's talk a little bit about a few very interesting Zugzwang positions. Positions in which a certain player basically gets to lose. Now, let's begin with normal endgame that often happens in anyone's games. The question is, who wins here? And the truth is, if it's white to move, he wins because he pushes king to e4. That creates a Zugzwang. Having a pawn up basically means that we need to control some of the key 3 squares in front of the pawn with our king so that we can get to win. If that is possible, then we win. If it's not, we don't get to win. And it's as simple as that. There's no other way to put it. Now, the interesting thing about this is that we call that the Zugzwang situation. Basically, black does not give white the ability to control any of those squares. However, wherever his king goes, white's going to get the control of any of those 3. And that is why we say that black is in a Zugzwang. He doesn't have any good place where to go, and for this reason, he practically loses. It's important to understand the concept of Zugzwang because in a lot of positions, we're talking about the endgame, you would like to put your opponent in a position just like that. You'd like to make him do or go for moves that he doesn't like to. And as a result of that, he'll lose the control or the opportunities and therefore the game. That's what a Zugzwang is. Let's see some more complex examples of Zugzwang. For instance, let's talk a little bit about this endgame. Now, this is a pretty fantastic endgame, and one of the reasons is because what you realize is that it is white to move. And we have a complex endgame in a way, because black's intending to advance his own king and go through an attack. But at the same time, we understand that this has to be treated very carefully. So black is definitely up to go. He'd like to advance, he'd like to attack, but we need to think, okay, what's the more efficient approach to stop black from going forward? So what is the best way to go ahead? Now, when we go into your position, which is very important as a matter of fact, is that we get to do a little move. Now, you see, what white needs to do in this type of position is just a quiet, small move that ends all the issues and all the problems by simply playing pawn to h3. Now, this adds quite a bit of an important restriction against black. But the reason why we care so much about this move is because the moment it's done, and the moment black has no way to actually advance and go further, move inside our territory, this is the time when we're basically winning the game. It's powerful. Practically right after the move of pawn to the h3, we are intending to go ahead with king d3, king to the d4, And at the same time, we're not letting black at any point to do something different. It's such a bad position for him, so he actually has to lose. So let's see exactly how this is gonna happen. I mean, likelihood, what he needs to do is to come forward and come backward. I mean, like, and then just continue with a move of king to the g6. I mean, he's just in a very bad position, so he's got to go back. He's got to go down like this. But the truth is, it doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter, because once he goes right back to that square, we just keep going up. We're gonna keep moving forward, and we keep advancing. So he wouldn't be able to hold that position anymore. And it's important to see how. What we do is king to the d3. Then, of course, I mean, he needs to go with the move of king to f6. And then what we do is king d4. Now we attack the pawn, which forces basically the black king to go right down and protect it in the only way possible, which is king e6. And this is the time where we play along with the one move that we want. And this is basically the candidate of king c5. And now we have a very typical Zugzwang type of position. A typical Zugzwang position in which there is no way for black to move out. It's actually so bad that he loses directly. Pretty much after that move happens, there is no way he can pose a problem or he can do anything that's good or that's going to save him. And this is where it really goes so bad for him. The problems are going to be there, the issues are clear, and the difficulties too. So essentially the idea is after king c5, whatever black moves will win the pawn, and if he doesn't move, we also win the pawn. So this is just too bad for him in terms of like what this position is supposed to, how this position is supposed to develop. It's like, it's a Zugzwang. Black could do many moves, but it doesn't really even matter, because the truth is, wherever he decides to go, the result is one and the same. We win the pawn, and there is no escape. Like king f6, king takes the d5 can very quickly happen. We take it out, we leave him in an awful position, we're just the f6, then we can play king to the d6 or anything else. And that is how it's supposed to be. It's pretty good and pretty relevant at the same time. Beautifully played and well done. In fact, that's so good that, the rest is quite easy. I mean, after king takes to the d5, if the black king comes back, we have king e5 to do, so which is going to be excellent. And then black is like losing the game no matter what. I love this position, honestly speaking. And even if black tries to play h5, once again, I mean, like, let's say g takes f, g8, g takes f, h5, h4, we still put him in a Zugzwang type of position, because basically that means he can't get out. And if this position means that he can't get out, then, I mean, what else he can do? Just, he's losing it. So it's pretty, and it's awesome, and it's good. And that's how the game ends, basically, for black. Very instructive position to just show us what's the value of taking the possibility of putting our opponent in a Zugzwang position. Let us see some other Zugzwang positions so you can understand how that works. For instance, here's another one. Pretty good example of Zugzwang and how and why is it important. What we see right here is a situation in which white and black look equal. But comparing their prospects, we understand that it's far from being equal. For instance, white can very quickly play along with the move of king to the king up there, king right up to the d2. Black will play king d6, king c3, king c6, king b4, and king b6, so he's holding it. But now white has a brilliant possibility. Actually, what he can do is to make a pass. This means he could practically play the move of f4. And now once more time, we witness a very typical example of a Zugzwang. Wherever the black king goes, white's king is going to penetrate within black's territory, and cause a lot of issues, cause a lot of problems. That is a very, very effective way to really turn this, into a high advantage. There is a big possibility here to win. And so, like in the case the Black King comes out there, just of course we realize that it's White's winning. He can move his own king right up there. There's no way in hell Black can keep himself strong, so he will likely have to retreat it. And the moment he actually goes back for a retreat, like say on the d6, this is a perfect way for White to play along with King b6 to move around and really close by the Black King, move close by the Black King, be in a beautiful manner. Now, I don't want to say with this that this is going to be super good and then Black is completely losing it, or like something like that is easy to play. But I want to admit how fantastic it is that White has this opportunity. Just every time when you're given the option, when you're given the chance to block your opponent and make him or force him to lose his chances, it's so amazing. Like, this is what works out great for White. It's beautiful, it's effective, and it's really happening. Make your opponent move first. That is what Zugzwang means, and it's so amazing. Now, see another one. I mean, actually, you may be wondering, does White get to win here? See, he does, and just wanted to show you why does he get to win. See, the opposition gets to work on many different accounts. It doesn't work just within one or two ways. What White will do now is going to give you to play here, constantly forcing the Black King to move out, to start defending, and keeping him, pushing him back. Like, for example, with King f6. Now, again, if Black could just sit down to f6 and comfortably and nicely to defend this pawn, he'd be great. He'd be great. But he can't, right? He's got to go, and then the moment he goes anywhere, he loses it. And that's where really the problem comes from. Like, wherever he goes, for example, if he plays like that, we just go to e7, and we reach down the pawn on e6 so we can attack it pretty quickly, and that's how he's losing it. It's actually pretty beautiful the way it works out. It's just there's no way on how Black could escape or anywhere he can go to run, really, from the trouble, from the danger. It's amazing. So that's one of the things that I love so much about such a position, like that, how we're able to push back the opponent's king, and as we get to do so, as we get to achieve it, it's like he cannot maintain the strong position of his pieces, the strong control he's supposed to have. It's quite great, I have to say. It's really, really good in a way, and given that there is basically nothing else that he can do, White's winning. So that's the way. Let's talk about another type of Zugzwang position. For example, let's take this position into account. Black can move King g5, and now we realize that White's in a very difficult position, because in reality he would love to go ahead and oppose, but then there is the move of b4, and then in case of c6 to b, there is c3. So the Black pawn cannot be stopped because the White King is far away, and yet his own pawn will take too many moves to try and promote in the queen. The same sort of thing we have as a situation in case the White King tries to go away. Black will go King g4, and likelihood this king is going to move down to h3, and then it's going to go to attack h2. So that's a problem. And really, this is one of the big difficulties here. I mean, whatever we see from White, I mean, if he could just stay in this position and say, okay, you know what, I'm just going to stay around here, it could be good. But he can't. He's got to do something. And as he gets to do whatever it is, Black is able to come forward, to come forth and attack pretty efficiently. And this is where really the whole game goes wrong for Black, because Black is intending to advance. Like, for example, if White plays King e3, there's King g4. d5 or e5 will be met by d5. So White always has to go back and thereby just lose all that great control that he was supposed to have. while black would just keep advancing, move forth, and invade the white position, like king e2, king h3, king to e3. He'd actually win the pawn, and you see that wherever white goes, black is just going to move around king to the g3, and like so, that's fine. So actually, that is a very important thing out there. So like after continuing with this type of a move of see like just king to f3, maybe even king to the e3 can happen, and this is very powerful. So you see, what we realize now is that there is a Zugzwang for white due to particular circumstances, like now the b and c pawns are black. White is unable to sustain his position. He has to make a move. And that exact reason that he has to make a move is the one thing that kills him. Okay? This is important. It's very, very important to understand. So the real reason why he's losing it is not just anything around, but there is like a very specific reason. And the reason is, yes, white has to make a move, and whichever of these moves it is, black's just going to come forward, he's going to go ahead, and he will basically challenge or attack and do his stuff as good as he wants to in the more effective way possible. Now that is something important. See, white obviously doesn't want to allow any of that, and he might play differently, but I'm just showing you a good sample way on something that can very easily take place here. This is going to be dangerous, very, very dangerous. Well, let's take a look at another example of a Zugzwang, slightly different than this. So, now this is supposed to be advantageous for white, but black still has a lot of fighting chances. Now, the interesting thing is that with his last move, white played king g2. He didn't play h3, he didn't do anything. So now he played king f2 here, giving black an opportunity to make f4 and do one of the worst type of mistakes in an endgame, pushing a pawn without having a really good reason for that. Because the truth is that if you push a pawn and yet you're not prepared, you don't have a strong reason, you don't have a good preparation, likely this is going to backfire. And when it does, you'll be the one who loses. See, so what we get to witness right now is black basically just going and advancing his pawn too fast, having no preparation behind it, no good possibilities, and nothing to back it up with. So, okay, our question then is, all right, so this is good, this is important, but what do you do? Like, how do you really use that to claim an advantage or do this or do that? Well, this is a key question. I'd like to say, let's just take our king right up, and then after that move of king to the f3, the moment black is able to play with the move of king to the g5, and this is very, very critical. Right after he plays with king to the g5, white plays king e4, practically going for the square of d5. If white is able to reach there, black is going to be in a real trouble, because the king is, leave the fact that it's going to go right up, but it will be incredibly powerful there, and it's just going to be amazing. So essentially, black saw that danger. He realized the scary job out there, and so he decides, okay, you know what? I have to do something to stop that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do e6. And now we have a very nice Zugzwang position as white plays h3. Now black has quite a few moves, and yet none of them are going to help him secure his game. Like, for example, if he gets to play with the move of pawn to d5 check, there's going to be king e5 and this pawn falls. If he plays king h4, white's going to win that pawn, then he will very easily come around, and you'll be a lot faster in collecting the black pawns and winning. And yet, if black chooses to go anywhere backward, he loses this pawn. Now, if it was white to move, perhaps black could have a chance, or some sort of a chance, but unfortunately there isn't. And so, even if we get to put a pawn here, it's the same thing. Black loses, because he's got to move. Wherever he goes, likelihood white is going to win the game. It's a beautiful example to realize the importance of dominating and really standing well in terms of preparation, control, and possibilities. Zugzwang, that's the key.